All right, well, let's get started then. Well, pretty much, Tommy, thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us here at the Uprising. It obviously means a lot to the boys. Some of them still remember, like I said, when you came out and trained with them at 6 a.m. right in the morning. Brought out Seb as well. So again, thank you so much for taking your time and being part of this.
Of course, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So we'll get right into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your path in football and how you made it to where you're at now at Salt Lake.
Yeah, so I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. I grew up like playing soccer for a local club here. And also when I was younger, I did track and field and cross country. So I was always very active, doing both sports. And then when I was 15, I got an offer to go join RSL Academy in Utah. And that was a really hard decision for me and my family. I had to think about it a lot, but ultimately it was just such a good chance and such a good opportunity. And I was really excited for it. So I went for it. And so when I was 15, I moved up there to Salt Lake City, lived in dorms, went to high school there, and trained. And soccer became pretty much what I did 24/7. So I did 3 years in the academy there. And then I went and played soccer at UCLA, which I loved. It was amazing. I did all 4 of my seasons there. And then once I graduated, I signed a homegrown contract with RSL, Real Salt Lake. And then this is my second season as a pro. I debuted with the first team last year, actually against LA Galaxy, which was cool because a lot of my former teammates were there. And then I've kind of been bouncing back and forth between the first and second teams, getting a lot of minutes with the second team, and just trying to learn and make the most of my opportunities with the first team.
Nice, man. Well, first of all, congrats obviously on the debut from last year. I know like one of the kids that sent you a picture and he's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember.
performing so against the LAFC one. So obviously congrats on that. And then we'll run it back a little bit. So as a freshman, I think you had a key role, right? You started as a freshman, which is very unlikely in college. Not many do it. So walk us through that experience and how it impacted you both mentally and physically. And like, okay, the staff trusts me to start as a freshman, and they see me as a player of impact. Like, did you go into UCLA thinking like I'm gonna be a starter, I'm gonna play right away, or kind of? And then when you did start and obviously played all 4 years, how how did that shape you, impact you, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I left RSL Academy, when I was a senior in high school, I really wanted to sign a pro contract. I really wanted to sign with the second team, which is called the Monarchs. And that didn't work out. The club didn't want to sign me at that time. And so I kind of felt like things had ended for me there. And so coming into UCLA, I was just so excited, like just so happy to be there, so happy to be playing college soccer at the school that I wanted to go to. Um, and I wouldn't really say I expected to be a starter right away, but I definitely knew I could. I knew I could play at that level. And so every day I was just going into training so excited to just get to play with these guys. And it was a weird situation. So I walked into a UCLA team that honestly we were really bad. Like we only won 3 games that year, probably one of the worst teams in program history. But it's funny because for me, I got lucky. Like that was a good situation for a freshman to walk into because it meant I got to play from the start. And that's one thing I've definitely learned about um, both college and even more so professional level is that there's all these players who are older and more experienced than you. And sometimes it's a matter of just waiting for the right moment, waiting for your opportunity, and then making the most of it. Sometimes it's an injury, sometimes it's sickness, sometimes a player gets traded. But when you get your chance, you just have to be ready and do everything you can to stick in that environment.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that moment where you were young and obviously they told you no. Um, but yeah, definitely, I saw Tommy play a couple of times. Definitely, I was like, okay, this guy has what it takes, obviously, to get to that next part. Definitely, obviously, being a freshman too. So obviously, you talked a little bit about it, but what do you think separates a professional player like yourself from a collegiate or amateur player? Right? I've always believed mindset plays the biggest role, apart from talent itself. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. When you reach the professional level, everyone is very talented, everyone is very athletic. Like it's the top of the top. And so I think the guys who have a long and successful career, it's all about mindset. Because in your career, you're going to face a million challenges, and it's about how you can like stick around even when things aren't going your way. That's what makes a difference. So that's from a mentality perspective, but I would say on the field, one of the biggest things I learned is the physicality and the way that players use their body. So a lot of my teammates are from Colombia, South America, a few from Europe, and they just know how to use their body and their strength so well to get an
Mm,
advantage in the game. And that's something I never experienced growing up because I don't think in American soccer it's taught very well. But like the way you use your arms as a defender, the way you shield the ball, getting your body between yourself and the defender, set pieces, like just being very physical. I think that's the biggest difference I've noticed between college and professional level is how physical you have to be. Because, like I said, everyone is so athletic that you just got to find a way to fight tooth and nail for every inch.
yeah. So going based off on that, obviously we grasped a little bit about like American soccer not teaching the physicality. Would you say that's also partly due to not playing up in years, right? Because in South America, right, in these countries, like you're 14, and if you're good enough, you're playing with 21-year-olds at this time. So it comes into the fact whether you either learn to use your body, right,
Mm.
even at a younger age, or you're going to lose and you're not going to be able to adapt to the game. So would you say that's also a big thing of you not being able to kind of develop that fully to that level, or what would you say was the biggest?
I think that's part of it. Like for me, I grew up playing 2 years up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think what that taught me is like I'm playing with kids who are a lot bigger and faster than me. So I had to learn how to think quicker and be more technical. Like that was my strength was, playing in few touches and getting the ball off my feet. I think these South American guys, they grow up in the streets playing all the time.
Yeah,
And that teaches you, how to beat someone 1v1, how to use your body, how to be physical, how to use angles, all these things. So that's something I wish I could have done more growing up is just like playing in the park with my friends all the time. I wish if I could go back, I would do that more.
nice, nice. So I would say like also like a culture thing, right? So obviously as hopefully time progresses, America goes into a little more of that culture, that street
Yeah,
soccer, growing up and stuff like that. So
exactly.
definitely,
And something I would add too is when I say physicality, it doesn't just mean being the biggest and strongest guy. Like size doesn't always matter because there's guys on my team who are 5'6" and skinny, but they know how to use their body in the right way. I think the more you study the game, you see all these players who have different body types, different athleticism levels, and they just learn to maximize that. So like if you're big, you got to be able to use your strength. But if you're small, you got to learn to use your quickness, um, and just work with what you have. Work with your body type.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. So obviously going back to you joining the academy at 15, walk us through that. Like how was that transition? Like obviously with your family, you said it was a big thing. So why did you decide to go? And how was it living there and kind of learning to mature at such a younger age?
Yeah, it was a big change. I was really fortunate because my mom actually moved to an apartment in Salt Lake City, so I wasn't completely alone. So I would
Okay.
stay in the dorms during the week, but on the weekends I would get to see her, and so that helped a ton.
Hmm.
But I think just being away and being in soccer 24/7, it's hard. Soccer is something that you don't have much control over, honestly. Like your coaches or situation, there's so many other factors that you don't control. And so it was hard for me at that age because if things weren't going well, like life just sucked. If things weren't going well in soccer, it was really difficult. But then when things would go well, it was awesome.
So how did you manage that? How would like those bad moments, right? Because I think a lot of those kids feel that moment where like, you know, football isn't going well, then like, man, like nothing's going well, you know? We've all gone through it as footballers. So like, how did you manage it at like 15, 16?
Back then was very different from what I do now, but back then it was like, how can I work harder? How can I train more? Like you just got to find a way to keep going. You just
Mm-hmm.
can't give up. Um, that's something I've learned. Like back when I was in academy, I had a coach from the club tell me that I would never play for the first team, that maybe I was good enough to be with Monarchs in like 4 or 5 years. And that was just completely against what I wanted to hear and against my goals. And when that happened, that killed me. Like I was crying my eyes out. But you just got to keep going because ultimately soccer is a subjective game and one person's opinion doesn't matter. One coach's opinion doesn't matter. I've seen so many kids who were amazing back then. Uh, they're not playing anymore. And so many kids who were decent players back then, but they had the mentality to keep working and they had this dream that they were never going to let go of. And now they're playing at the professional level. So, yeah, perseverance is so important.
Okay, nice. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like even on a little bit off topic, like but like when I saw you train that morning, I was like, you know, usually when college players come out and train with us, it's more like, these kids are younger, you know, I'm not gonna take it the same way. But like you came and it was just like, whoa, like he's taking it like if it's a training session at UCLA, you know, regardless of the situation. I think that's where I always tell the kids, I was like, the mindset's different, you know, kind of like we talked about that perseverance and pushing through. So when you were told no, right? You wanted to sign with the second and you were told no. How was that like? I guess what did you think? What did you do? Were you already committed to UCLA or
Yeah, so at that point, I wasn't committed to UCLA.
right?
This is a good story that honestly many people don't know, but so in 2020 I was a senior and COVID hit, so I came back home. And I hadn't decided where I wanted to go to college yet, but I really knew in my heart, I believe God put it in my heart that I really wanted to go to UCLA. And so I had a phone call with Coach Jordan a few months prior, and he had told me, Tommy, we're sorry, but we're not going to recruit you. You're not going to come to UCLA.
Wow.
And then COVID hit and things changed. And like, I just knew I had to be at UCLA. I had a few offers from different schools, but I just knew I had to be at UCLA. And so I started emailing Coach Jordan like every week, sending him my film, asking him, can we talk, all this and that. I reached out to academy coaches or anyone I knew who knew Coach Jordan, and I'd have them call coach on my behalf just to talk me up and just to get anything. And so all of COVID, I'm following up, and he was a very dry guy. Like it was difficult because he
Yeah.
was so dry to me. And then I remember I had applied to the school and I had gotten in on my own.
Oh,
And like May 1st was the decision day where I had to decide if I'm coming to the school or not. And so I
yeah.
told him, Coach, you need to let me know by May 1st. Like if you say I can come, I'm going to be there. But if not, I'm going to have to look for something else. And so finally, he had barely been responding to me, but on May 1st, he FaceTimes me. And he's like, I'm going to offer you a spot to walk on. You have 1 year guaranteed, and then we're going to see how it goes from there. And I like hung up the call. I came out, and me and my parents were screaming. I hugged them. I was just so excited. So excited. And then I was on campus a few months later, and then a few months after that, he gave me a scholarship, and I was starting every game. So I think that's the best example I have in my life of like perseverance and not taking no for an answer. It's really difficult. It's really, really difficult in the moment, but just not giving up, keeping your vibes up, keeping your happiness up, and just continuing to work hard and just be ready for whatever comes.
Wow, man. I literally got goosebumps. I had no idea. I'm not gonna lie. No way.
Yeah, no, I didn't honestly when I was at UCLA, I never really told many people that I was a walk-on because I
Yeah,
think
no
it
one would have
changes the way
thought.
people perceive you, but yeah, it's funny. It's funny how it works.
Wow, dude. That is amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That is a story for sure. That is something. That's honestly amazing to hear that. And then obviously, yeah, no one would have thought. Like obviously, seeing you play that first year, we were like, yeah, this guy was recruited 2 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Dude, amazing, amazing. So obviously, going to UCLA, right? Do the 4 years. At what point did you realize, you know, I can play pro, or I have the chance? Was it when you signed, or was it prior? At what moment were you like, I can make it and I want to be at the top?
Yeah, I think it started before I came to UCLA. When I was in academy, I decided I really want to be a pro. I really want to do this with my life. And it's funny, I remember I was talking to my mom when I was in college, and she was like, I just told her like I don't want to work another job. I don't know what job I would work. I really want to play soccer.
Yeah,
And that that's something that I think made me stand out. I just was so driven and so focused on wanting to go pro that I lived my life in a very different way from my teammates. And sometimes it made it hard for me to like bond with them, but I learned that over time. But like my freshman year, I was just in my room eating healthy. I had some dumbbells in my room that I do workouts with. I was always going on extra runs. There's this little turf patch at UCLA right in front of the IM field, and I
yeah,
would just go, and there's these squares on the wall, and I would just practice my crosses, like trying to hit this square 15 times in a row. Um, I was very dedicated because I had that goal of what I wanted to reach. And then every summer in between college, I would go and train with RSL and training. Sometimes I'd get to train with the first team, and that would just fire me up so much. Like being so close to that level, getting to watch their games in person, it just, I was like, I have to be here. I want to be here so bad. And so seeing that every year would really fire me up to stay motivated. But
wow,
I think from a young age, I knew I could do it, and I just really wanted to do that with my life.
oh, amazing, man. Yeah, even to hear about you, like going on and crossing the ball, all that, like, yeah, it's obviously very different to the way I live my college life. So, wow, definitely amazing. So, did you kind of stick with that like same mentality all 4 years of like doing the extra runs, extra work, etc.?
Yeah, I did. I think I was always very focused on my soccer, and I love training. So for me, that's like a joyful thing to do. But as I went through college, I also learned how important it is to have a balance and to have stuff outside of soccer, because at first, like, all I had was soccer and I was doing that all the time, and it's just too much, especially the older you get. So as I went more and more through college, I started to develop better friendships and just have more fun hanging out with people. There's so many amazing people at UCLA. And just having that balance really helped my happiness and my peace of mind.
Good, good. So I know the kids are gonna want to know, but like, could you, I guess, walk us through your schedule at Rock Salt Lake in the academy, the college, and then what it looks like now? So
Yeah. So in academy, it was usually wake up at 5:45 a.m. Um, walk down to the practice facility, which was like 100 meters away. And I always had this thing where I wanted to be on the field by 6:30 because my coach, my coach would usually show up at like 6:35. And so I wanted to be on the field passing against the wall when he walked in. Cause like then he wouldn't know how long I've been there. But he would just like see me already working 6:30 in the morning. So I do that for like 30 minutes until 7 a.m. 7 a.m. we start training, about an hour and a half session. And then we have time to shower, go eat breakfast, start school around 10 a.m. Then we're in school from 10 to 4. And it was also really nice because the first team trained there. So sometimes during our lunch break, we could go and watch the first team train, which was super cool. And then at 4, we'd either have weights or maybe a film meeting or maybe another light training session, depending on the day. And then dinner and chill for the rest of the night. And then at college, wake up. Sometimes I had a morning class at 9 a.m. or sometimes I just had the morning free. And then I'd go into the facility around 10, do all my activation stuff. We'd have film at 10:30, 11, straight out to training for an hour or two. And then usually weights after that, and then just recovery stuff. Usually class from about 2 to 4 in the afternoons, and then go home and make dinner and relax. Um, and then now it's pretty similar to college, just without the classes. So usually I'm at training from about 9:30 or 10 until about 3 p.m. So I'm usually there for like 5 hours or so.
mm,
In that time, I go in, do all my activation and warm up. Then we have team film. Then we have like a team activation, go out to training, and then weights after. And then now I do a lot more recovery stuff. I also, at the pro level, you have a lot more resources. Like we have the cold tubs, hot tubs, recovery boots, massage therapist. We get lunch there. So I try and take advantage of those things. And then in the evenings, it's usually just hanging out at home, cooking, going for a walk, chill stuff like that.
okay. So still very 24/7 football life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. That's good. Yeah, it's definitely, part of that journey where it kind of becomes like a habit. But
Yeah,
going based off, obviously, you talked a little bit about recovery. Could you explain how important activation and, taking care of your body is, and what that looks like as well? Like for maybe kids that don't have all these resources, right? Like how important is that for, like, long sake of taking care of yourself, etc.
for sure. I think now there's all these like tools, for example, massage guns or Normatec boots, things like that. And I think those are good, but those are like the 1% difference makers. The biggest things you can do is sleep 9 to 10 hours a night and eat enough food, especially when you're a teenager and growing and burning a ton of calories, just making sure you're getting enough in and hopefully it's healthy. Um, so sleep and nutrition are huge. Just keeping your stress low. Like when your body is stressed out, you don't recover as well. And then for me, the next biggest thing is just foam rolling. I did that every day since I was probably 14 years old, just foam roll in the evenings, just to keep my body loose. And then there's all those extra little things you can do, like ice bath, massage, Normatex, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'll stay away from those ice baths. Did Ryan make you guys do the ice bath after every session and stuff?
No, not after every session, but um, I didn't always do it in college. But
Yeah.
honestly, Tucker, one of my teammates, he would always get me in there,
Really?
especially our freshman year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Tucker's at Galaxy now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, if you guys can see kind of the same mentality here with Tommy with the ice baths. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those that always do in the hot tub and then just leave. I'm not gonna lie here, let's be honest. You know how there's the Costa, there's the hot tub and then the cold one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would always do the hot tub and be like, "No, I'm out of here. No, I'm not going in that cold one." Not gonna lie there.
I feel that. I feel that.
So obviously, two more questions, but beyond the usual advice that we always get, like work hard, never give up, which obviously they mean a lot. But what specific guidance would you give to a young player who dreams of like playing pro? Apart from those two main things, like what is something you would tell either your younger self or just like obviously someone asking you?
I think you got to start to look at yourself objectively from a coach's standpoint. So put
Mhm.
yourself in the position of your coach and evaluate yourself as a player. What do you add? What do you take away? What do you need to work on? What are you going to offer the team? So, like, I play left back. To be a good left back, you got to be a good defender. You got to be a hard worker. And you have to be good with the ball. Like, can't be losing the ball. So, those are the basics. Good at defending, good technically. But then it's like, okay, how do I separate myself? How do I become better than the guy who's currently starting at the first team? And so when I was in college, it was working on my crossing. Like I said, I'd go out to that turf patch and I'd hit balls right where I wanted them onto the wall. And so over years and years and years, that became like a huge strength of mine. That's probably one of my biggest strengths as a player now. And not that I've mastered it, but I've gotten it to a high level where I don't need to focus on that as much. And so now what I'm focusing on is like 1v1 attacking. So it's a step over with my right, push it onto my left, get a cross off. How can I create space so that I can utilize my crossing? And so when I look at myself as a player, I know I'm good at defending, good technically. I have a really high work ethic. I get up and down the field. And then now I'm adding that something extra special, which is my crossing, and I can take on a guy 1v1.
Mhm.
And so, like, I'm trying to become a player that my coach looks at the bench and he knows what I'm going to offer him, and it's something different or it's something special than the guy who's currently in my position. So I think you can really like hone in on those little things. So for each position, it might be different. Maybe if you're a left center back, it's like working on long diagonal balls with your left foot. Like that can open up a game. Maybe if you're a nine, it's like your hold up play. You always protect the ball. You never lose the ball. Maybe if you're a six, it's like being able to glide past someone on the dribble. I think you can look at whatever position you play and just really dial in on those seemingly small things, but they actually make a big difference because that's what separates you from other people in your position.
Oh, I love that, and I definitely love the look at yourself from a coach's point of view because I think that's what I try to tell a lot of the kids. Where it's
Yeah.
like, guys, like there's a lot more missing than what you see the eye. So
Right.
I think that's a very good way. I haven't heard that one yet, so that was a very good one. I appreciate that
Thanks.
one.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, no, definitely. And then for me, one of these final ones I think is probably the main reason we do these things, and the most important for me is obviously for me, my Christian faith has been my rock, my foundation. How has faith shaped you as a soccer player and influenced your career? From when it started to obviously now. You know.
Yeah, I think my life has changed a lot recently thanks to my faith. So when I first became a pro, we had preseason. It was like the first week. I'd gotten off to a good start, and then boom, I pulled my hamstring. And I was like so down bad, so depressed for a few weeks there because, I just become a pro. I just decided this is what I'm doing with my life. I had all this hope. You start to make money and you start to think like, this is how I'm going to provide for myself, for my future family. And then boom, like I can't play soccer and all these horrible thoughts start to come in. It's not going to work out. This isn't going to plan, all this stuff. And that was a key moment where I realized I had to build my foundation on something other than soccer. And so that's when I started to do discipleship with one of my friends that I really trust, who knew Jesus really well. And so we're working and working and starting to read the Bible more, starting to really get dialed and going to church every weekend. And that was great. And that really helped. And then this year rolls around. And in preseason, I'm going through all sorts of trials again. Not playing, have a bad day, have a great day, still not playing, all this stuff. And I think through all those trials this year, that's what's really brought me so much closer to God. And it's realizing that soccer is great and soccer is amazing, but at the end of the day, it's just a blessing that I get to do. It's something that I get to do. It's not who I am as a person, and it's not my purpose. And really, over the last few months, my philosophy has changed to, this is where God has me. Even if I don't like my situation, I'm going to find joy in Jesus, and I'm going to lean into being here. And now one of the most important things to me is like my Christian community, or can I teach some of my teammates about Jesus? We started a Bible study in the team a few
Amazing.
months ago, and for 2 months it was 3 of us. And then literally the past 2 weeks, two more guys joined. Last week, four more guys joined.
Wow.
And so those are the things that like really matter to me now is um telling people about who Jesus is and having my foundation in my life truly built on his rock and not on soccer, not on worldly things. Um, it's the most important thing in my life for sure.
Dude, that's amazing to hear. Amen. Obviously, to all that, dude. That's just obviously from my walk as well. Like, it's just nice to obviously see that. Obviously, growing in football, especially because I think we all know what football used to mean in that sense. Like, football was our life. If, like you
Mhm.
said it yourself, if it doesn't go well, it just like ruined the entire day. Like
Yeah,
nothing would feel right. So when we're able to have that rock and foundation, it's not like it goes away. People think it's like, oh, I don't care about football anymore. So with that, I want to follow up. Would you say now with having that foundation, do you feel more free on the field, and do you feel like you got more drive to be like, you know what, it was a bad day, but I got to keep going, or you know
yeah. I think you asked earlier about like how I handled that rejection and when I
mhm.
was in academy, and back then it crushed me so bad. This year I've been going through like so many trials, and don't get me wrong, it's so difficult. Like I'm upset and frustrated all the time. But now my life is dominated by the idea that like God has me here and he's going to work out my career exactly how he wants it to.
Mhm.
Um, and that just gives me so much more freedom to not worry and have anxiety about the future or where am I going to be, but that it's intentional that I'm here in this moment on this team with these teammates. Um, it just gives me such a better perspective. Like, yeah, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, nice, man. Would you say the drive like inside of you changed, or kind of like stay the same, where it's like I'm still going to the wall trying to perfect this, obviously being that the case in college? Would you say that's still like there, or would you feel like it's amplified, or less, or
I think my purpose has changed to
mm,
now it's about I want to I'm doing what I do because I want to glorify God. It's not about me anymore. It's not about achieving my dreams. Um it's like I want to be as good as I can at soccer so that maybe someone will watch and think like, that guy's special. What's different about him? And maybe that can help point them to Jesus.
Wow, that's amazing, dude. That's honestly amazing, and yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's difficult, but at the same time, like, to hear you speak out and be like, this is the difference. I've played for this amount of time and I'm here at the highest level, but to know that's your foundation and that's what drives you is just, it's a blessing to hear. And so obviously thank you so much for sharing that. Like, and I think, just again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I know we're small, but we're trying to get the message across to as many players as we can. And so again, thank you so much, Tommy. Thank
Of
you so
course.
much. And if it's all right with you, we'll open it up to some questions. I know some players might have some questions for you, etc. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, just we can go one by one. So just raise your hand. I think in the chat you're able to do that. So we can start if you guys have any questions. Liam, go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, my question is like, what is one thing you did that while growing up that you think got you to where you were today?
Um, I think one important and overlooked thing is trustworthiness. So especially when you get to college and then professional, your coach needs to trust you. Um, and that comes from so many things. Like that comes from what you do in training every day, but it also comes from how you present yourself as a man. Does he see you getting there early? Does he see you there late working in the weight room? Does he see you going over film to know that you really care and you're really trying to perfect what you want to do? And so you need to realize that like it's not just what you do on the field, but your character as a man, and can he trust you to go help him win games?
I think next was Kylon.
Hi, my name is Kylon. I don't have a question, but I just want to say that your story was really inspiring, and it's kind of helped me direct myself in a different direction than what I was going in. So just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Kylon. I'm glad, bro. Thank you.
Nice. Sherman, Gabe.
Yeah. So I was just wondering if there was ever like a player you idolized and tried to sort of shape your game after, or also your mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I think picking someone in your position who has similar qualities to you is really important. So for me, that was Andy Robertson, the left back on Liverpool. I love how dynamic he was. He gets up and down. He's such an aggressive defender. He has great crossing ability, and he has really similar physical characteristics to me. So I try and watch, or I especially when I was growing up, I would try and watch as many of his games as I could. Um, Go watch his highlights, just really study his game, and he's a great example for me.
Not a big Liverpool fan, but we'll take it, Tommy. Zach.
I had a question. What team did you play for before RSL Academy, and what was the process like getting recruited to RSL?
So I played for a club called Tanca Verde Soccer Club. It doesn't exist. It kind of became what's called FC Tucson now. So back when I played club soccer, RSL Academy was located in Arizona, about an hour away from my house. And so kind of the director of my club would talk to the RSL coaches, and they had me out to train a few times. I did well. I went to a tournament and played with them. And then the next year they invited me to join the academy. But I think now it's probably a little different. I think they might have some tryout days, but I know coaches and scouts are always watching at tournaments and like MLS Next Fest and ECNL. You know, they're always just looking for good players.
And then Cyrus. You there, Cyrus? We'll go back to Cyrus. Noah, do you have a question?
Um, what if, what were the challenges you faced when entering MLS?
That's a good question. I think one challenge is that players who come from college are looked at differently than other international players. So already there's kind of like a hurdle to hop. Sometimes they think college players are like tronco, like less technical and just athletic. So, and also, even though I had 4 years of playing college soccer, they don't really view that as experience. They care about professional experience at good levels. So, you kind of start at the bottom. Like you really got to work your way up. And that's something I'm still trying to do.
Eli?
Yeah, you were talking a little bit about like how the physical aspect like kind of sets up people apart in their game on your team. What do you think is the best way to improve that and kind of like learn those like little niche physical like parts that you were talking about? You think it's like small-sided games or like in the weight room, or is it kind of just like over time?
That's a really good question. I think there's a few things you can do. One is coaching. Like that was the biggest deal for me is I had coaches who my head coach played in a World Cup. I had coaches who played in the Prem or in the English Championship. And so they have that experience as a player. They know all those little tricks. So if you can get to good coaches like Carlos or other coaches who have playing experience, I think that's super important. Number two, I think, is watching professional games, not just as a fan, but with an eye at like the little things that they're doing. So if you're a center back, go to an LA Galaxy game and like watch that center back when he's not around the ball. See how he's grabbing the forward. See how when the forward's about to run in behind, he puts an elbow into him to block his run. Like watch them on corners. Watch how they defend set pieces. Because all professional players know how to use their body. They know those little tricks. It's just people don't notice them. And then third, I think, just like you said, over time, you got to continually work in the weight room. You got to build your strength up. You don't have to do it overnight, but over years, being consistent is just going to turn you into more of a man and stronger. And then small-sided games, like trying to be physical, trying to use your arms, trying to get in tackles, things like that.
I'll take the comment there about me being one of those good coaches. Tommy, I'll take it. Cyrus?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Once you got to UCLA, what was one of the hardest parts about like after you got there?
Early on, it was making friends. My first year was COVID, so we were all like isolated in our dorms. And like I said earlier, I was very focused on being a pro, and a lot of my teammates weren't. A lot of my teammates were living very different lifestyles. And so at first, for me, it was hard to make friends. I was quite lonely at school. And then just as time went on, I learned to relax my lifestyle a little bit and just be more open. And I wish I had done that sooner, because the relationships and friendships I made at UCLA are probably the most valuable thing that I'll take with me. So I would do that differently if I could go back.
Zach, did you have another question, or was your hand just still raised?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put it down.
Oh, you're good. Liam, did you have one more?
Yeah, I did. Did you have any pregame rituals, like every time before a game?
I used to be pretty superstitious, but now I try to calm down as much as I can. So I honestly just like listen to worship music, read the Bible, and just try to chill, because naturally I get so like amped for games that if I don't like calm down, I'm gonna be exhausted by the time the game starts. So yeah, honestly, I just try and calm down as much as I can.
Noah, did you have one more? Or no?
Yeah. How do you handle pressure during big games?
Yeah, I think you gotta just try and focus on the game. Like try and get into a flow state as much as you can, and try not to overthink. So when I made my debut against LA Galaxy, I was defending Gabriel Peck, who's one of the best wingers in MLS, and also Ricky Puig was on my side. But I was just trying to think, like I was just trying to focus on the game, like focus on all the little details about 1v1 defending that I'd been working on. And that's really all you can do, I think, is just like try and play as best you can. If you make a mistake, let it go. Don't worry about it. It's in the past. And just stay dialed in on what you're doing.
It's a pretty nice lineup to go against. Galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because when you make your debut, they give you like a little debut patch on your jersey. And I felt like Ricky Puig and Gabriel Peck saw that, and they were like, okay, yeah, we're going to go at this guy. And so I swear I was in for like 25 minutes. I swear every time they got the ball, they were running at me. But it was fun. It was such a good experience.
My question, I guess, is were you able to like swap a shirt that game? Did you swap shirts or no? Or
No, I didn't. But so one of my good friends from UCLA, Jose Conte, he's like best friends with Ricky Puig.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd actually hung out with Ricky before that. I'd gone to his house and stuff. But in the game, I was holding the ball for a throw in, not even wasting time. But Ricky starts cussing me out in Spanish. Throw it in, F you, blah, 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 blah. And so I throw it in. And then after the game, I go up and like shake his hand. And it took him a second to recognize me. But he was like, oh, my friend, how are you? Yeah, that was funny.
No way. That's hilarious. Yeah, I think like during the game, you guys are just like locked in, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Cody?
What's a challenge that you're facing right now at the professional level that you didn't really face at the youth or at college?
Yeah. One big challenge is, so in the first team, there's two guys who play my position, and both of them are very good players. They're experienced and they're older. And so my coach also really likes older and experienced players. And so it's like I said earlier, I need to look at myself as a player and say, how can I become better than these guys? What can I offer that they don't? But it's hard. It's hard because I kind of I got to wait for an opportunity, but while I'm waiting, I got to stay ready and be improving my game as much as I can to take full advantage of it when it comes.
Donovan?
Was there ever a point where you
Like when you would go train with RSL while you were still at UCLA, was there ever a point where you felt like you didn't fit in there and you kind of second guess yourself?
Yeah, definitely early on, I didn't feel athletic enough or fast enough or big enough. But then, like I said, you just got to stay consistent with that weight training and with that athletic development, because then each year I'd go back and I'm like, whoa, that was a little easier. Go back the next year and like, whoa, I bodied that guy, or like I was as quick as that guy. And so that gave me a lot of confidence when I started to realize like, okay, I can actually hang with these guys. And then the more you do that, the more you get more comfortable where you're like, okay, I can play. And now it's like, okay, I really want to make an impact on the team. I want to become a starter. I want to become a consistent player.
All last one, I just thought of this today. Even I spoke to one of the players today a little bit, piggyback off what you just said. You talked about a little bit about confidence every year going back. Obviously, you did the work to get there, but how important was your community, your family, your relationships to make you feel like, hey, I can continue moving forward because I have this group of people that love me and support me, and are pushing me to get to where I want to. So how important were they in your, progression every year, obviously going back and being like, okay, this got easier, and having that confidence to be like, you know what, I can do this. How important was that like network right behind you, to help you get to where you're at?
Oh man, that's massive. I can't even overstate it. I know I wouldn't be here without my parents, first and foremost, because my parents have believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And like in all those moments where I was down and rejected and people told me no, they were the ones who picked me back up and said, no, you can do this. Like, don't listen to those guys. Their opinions don't matter. Like, you're going to make it to where you want to go. And so my mom and dad have been everything and just encouraging me and redirecting me when I'm down. And then also kind of like on the flip side of that is my wife, who I'm grateful because she loves me, not because I'm a soccer player. Like she always tells me if soccer doesn't work out, like I don't care. Like she, in some ways, she doesn't care about my success as a soccer player, which is which is great. Like it's so reaffirming because that's not why she loves me.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Yeah, like I think that as we grow up, we tend to forget about like those people right behind us, right? Like we forget about how many times they drove us, how many times they took us to our games, took us to practice, fed us, right? Like
For
being
sure.
able to like watch the games, like, you got to pay. As you grow older, you realize, man, if I want to see that, like see the game, I got to pay for that, like TVs. And I think it's just being able to recognize those blessings, as you stated yourself. So yeah, like, yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for that. It definitely came to my mind. I was like, yeah, I got to ask that one.
That's a great question.
Does anybody else? I think we have time for one more question, Tommy. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody has one more, give it a couple. Okay, I think we're all good. Okay, Tommy, again, just thank you so much. Like, hopefully, I do really believe that it'll make a difference in the lives of these kids, but also like when we get to share this with the rest of the world, and obviously allow them to see what it takes to get to the top and the trials. And a lot of people think it's like this one-way street just to get to pro, and all the challenges, all the rejections that you face. And so again, just thank you so much for taking the time. It really does mean a lot to me, to everyone at the Uprising. So just again, thank you so much. God bless, brother. And we'll be watching. All right, man. We'll be watching. Yeah. Hopefully, you get those other opportunities to come soon, and we'll obviously stay in touch. But again, thank you so much. Seriously.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. That was fun.
Of course. All right, guys. You're good to go. Again, just make sure we say thank you, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
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 I think
Cool,
they're
man.
yeah, but again, Tommy, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Thank
Dude.
you.
Thanks for having me.
No, of course, and we'll follow up. We'll stay in touch, and then best of luck with everything. God bless, and all right, man.
Likewise.
Thank you again. Seriously.
Yeah, of course. All right. Bye bye.